Tonight's class is going to be just focused on we learn programming all from the very scratch. For those who have joined us before now, who have been having classes with us, this is going to be a form of revision. And for those of you who are just joining us for the very first time, this is going to be very interesting. And I'm just going to try as much as possible to carry everybody along gradually and gradually. Please feel very free to ask questions. If there is anything that you're not comfortable with, please just ask questions, and definitely I will be here to answer you at any time whatsoever. So you don't struggle to get along, don't manage to get along. Just feel very free to ask questions at any time. Interrupt me, and I'll be here for you. I will just gladly answer you. Okay. All right. So, if you log on to the platform, if you log on to the site I just showed you, all right. So this is exactly what you're going to see. This is exactly what you're going to see if you log on to the site I just told you about, which is www.online.python.com. For those of you that are just joining, so that is the link to the to the coding platform that we are going to be using in this class. So I know if you are just starting new, what you are seeing on this screen right now might look so strange, might look somehow. But if you are new to coding, this might look so strange, but then don't worry, don't be intimidated by it. You're going to understand everything completely as we enter into this class. Now, first and foremost, I want to tell you, I'm going to introduce you to something we call comments. Now, if you want to code on this platform, please, the moment you log on, it's going to show you something like this. And most probably your own background is going to be white. So if it is white and you want to make it black like this one that I'm having here, you can just click on this, change theme, click on this button, and then you wait for it a little bit. It's going to change. It's going to change to black. Okay, so that's how it works. And then this is just a sample code, just to let you know that the site is working. So you can as well wipe it out. Just Control A and then wipe it off. If you are using your phone, you select all and then wipe it out. So that is that. And then we start coding. Please get your writing materials ready. You need to put some notes down. And then also I'm going to make the recording available for you at the end of the class. We'll upload it on the YouTube channel at midnight, so you see it there. Okay. All right. Okay, we start. The very first thing that you're going to learn is the print statements. I'm going to teach you what we call the print statements. The print statement in Python programming is actually used to display results. If you are on that site with me, this area that you are seeing on the screen is the coding area. But whenever you code, you are going to see the output of your code in this place. That is when you click on run. When you click on the run button, that is you type a code here, and then you click on the run button, and then it's going to show you the output under here. Okay, so now I said I was going to teach you the print statements. What is it used for? How is it used? So the print statement is used for actually used for displaying results or displaying output of your code. Okay, all right. So for instance, if I say print, and open a bracket and say 5 plus, print 5 plus 7. We all know that the answer for 5 plus 7 is 12. So, and then for us to confirm if truly it is 12, then the next thing we do is when you click on the run button, then you see the answer being displayed under there as 12. You see that? All right, for those of you that have started this class with us since the past 1 week or 2 weeks, just I just want to use like 30 minutes to 1 hour to explain the things that we've done in the past, so that those people who are just joining us newly can be able to go along with us by the time we start doing new things. You understand? So, all right. So please just wait for us, okay? If you are an old timer, please, as you are joining, mute your mic. Please mute your mic. Mute your mic, please. So, all right, for the first 1 hour, I want to spend the first 1 hour going over all the things that you have done in the past, so that you can all join us, or at least I just want to touch some key aspects. I may not go over everything, but I'll just touch some key aspects, so that the next thing, when I want to start something new, you will be able to follow me. Then there are notes. After this class, we will send you videos of what you have done in the past. Link to those videos. We'll also send you some notes, some handouts that you can study, okay, to be able to get along with us concerning all the things that you have done in the past. All right, so that is how it goes. But I want to carry all of you along from the scratch, and then so that you can be able to understand everything. You're welcome again once more. Okay, I just told you about the function of the print statement. The print statement is used to display results, and like what you just see here, all you just need to do is, the print, you type the word print, put whatever you want Python to display, you put it inside the brackets, and you come down here, you run the code, and it's going to display the results just for you. So the same thing applies if I wanted to display a text. The only difference is that if I wanted to display a text, anything that looks like a text, you must put it inside a quote. You must put it in a quote. So for instance, if I want to display Emmanuel like this is going to be kept inside these brackets in quotes, because it is a text, because it is a string. We call it a string. All right, texts like these are called strings. Non-numerals are called strings. Okay, so this is a numeric constant, this is a non-numeric constant. Okay, numeric constant because it's a number. Non-numeric number is constant because it is not a number. Okay, so this non-numeric constant is called a string. And then by the time you want to represent a string in Python programming, you always put the string inside a quote, like what you have seen here. Okay, so when you keep the string in a quote, then you come here and run the program. By the time you run it, you are going to have the result Emmanuel. Okay, because the first time I said print 5 plus 7 and the answer is 12, and now I said print Emmanuel and then the answer is Emmanuel. It is going to print it, it's going to display it without it's going to display the result without putting the quote around it, because the quote is not part of the display. The quote is just there. The quote is there just to let Python know that this is not a variable. I'm going to tell you the meaning of variable, constant, and all of these things later. All right, but just for you to know that this is not a variable is the reason why we put it as quotes, so Python will not misinterpret it. Python will not misunderstand it. Do you get it now? So that is that. Now I've just shown you how to display the results of two numbers adding each other, or the result of a string, okay? But you can still do much more. You can still do much more than this, all right? So what are the other things that we can do? Before we go into those things, I want to tell you a little bit of, some other things that you should also understand. Now, there is something we call comments. Comments, C-O-O. Comments are used in programming to give documentation. That is, whenever your program or your Python program sees a comment, it already knows that you are trying to write a note for yourself. So this comment is actually there for you to remember some things you don't want to forget. It is also there for you to indicate what a particular portion of your code is working for. It is your own personal notes. Nothing concerns the program with what you are doing here. Anything I like, I type, but nothing concerns the program with what I'm typing there. If I run this program, it is still going to display the same result for me. It is not going to take into account what you have here because you have already made it to be a comment. And how do you let Python know that it is a comment? Python recognizes comments in two ways. Number one, with the hashtag. The moment you want to indicate a comment, the very first thing you do is to put the hashtag. Once you put the hashtag, Python already understands that the moment it sees hash, it knows that anything you want to write in front of that hash is a comment. So it is not just going to branch to it. It's not going to do anything about it. It is your own personal notes for the computer program. And then you're just going to look away from that line. It's not going to consider it. Okay, so that is that as per that. We call this thing comments. And then this is a single line comments. It's a single line comment because it only works for everything on this single line. The moment you go to another line, anything you start typing is not going to be commented. It's just going to be like the normal code. But if I type something on this single line, it is not going to be seen as a normal code. Do you understand? Anything I type on this line still remains a comment. As you can see that the color is different from the color of every other part of the program. So I have taught you two things. I have taught you number one, the use of print statements. I told you that print statement is used by Python in order to display results. So when you have print 5 plus 7, and then Python is going to display the result for you after running the program, it's going to display it as 12. If you say print Emmanuel, okay, Python is going to run the program and display Emmanuel. So Python is used to display results. Print statement is used to display results. I believe you have understood that clearly now. Then the next thing I taught you just now, is single line comments. I said single line comments is used to comment your code or to document your code or to give some kind of personal notes to yourself so that you can be able to understand what every part of that code is doing. So that, because by the time you start coding as a professional, you are going to be writing hundreds of thousands of lines of code. Okay? And you might get lost. Even you yourself that wrote the code, you might get lost along the line. So in order for you not to get lost, you use these comments to indicate what every portion of your code is doing. So that by the time you run the program and the program is not running well, you can easily use the comments to trace where the fault might be coming from, so that you can know exactly where to go to sort the problem out. You understand? So that is what comments are used for in Python programming. I have taught you two things now: the use of print statements and the use of comments. So now you have learned the use of print statements, the fact that it's used to display results. You have learned the use of comments, the fact that it can be used to document your code. Now there is something I have not told you about comments. There are two types of comments. There is single line comments, which is what you have just seen here. And then there is what we call the multi-line comments. Okay, please take note that multi-line comments are used to document more than one line of code. They are used to document more than one line of code. So what I'm just trying to say is that if peradventure if peradventure you wish to cover from here to here, instead of repeating hash 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 every line, okay, the very best thing you can do is to put 3 dots here. Okay, let me put it in the notes. They are represented with 3 quotes, this quote sign. So you put it at the top and at the bottom of your code, of the place, of the area you want to comment, and it is done. Put it at the top and the bottom of the area you want to comment. For instance, if I want to comment these 2 lines of code, all I just need to do is put three quotes, single quotes, 1, 2, 3. By the time you put the 3, you see that the color of every single thing under it has changed. You see that the color of everything have changed. Okay, so that is how to do it. So when you put 3, but because it will comment everything under it. Okay, in order to avoid that from happening, what you can do is that if it is only these 2 lines that I want to comment, that is, I want to block only these 2 lines. I don't want Python to see it. I don't want Python to recognize it as a code. It is just my own personal note or my own personal document. If I want to do that for these 2 lines, I will just 2 lines alone, those 2 lines alone, all I just do is to put another 3 quotes, 3 single quotes under it. And by the time I put the 3 single quotes under it, you will see that it is only these 2 parts that will turn green. But every other part will return to normal. But if I don't put this thing under it, okay, everything that is under that 3, whatever the 3 quotes will turn green. In fact, this one is also supposed to turn green. Because even that print, okay, I blocked it here already. No wonder that other print statement is not turning green. It's because I've ended the quotes. I've ended it here. Okay, so assuming these 3 stuff was not there, you see that every single thing under automatically turns green, showing me that everything from this point downward becomes a comment. So if I don't want everything to turn green, if I want only a specific area to turn green, okay, all I just need to do is to put these 3 stuff there, 3 quotes, and then everything turns green. Only that area turns green, and every other thing is freed up to return to their normal life. So that is how the multi-line comment works. But either the multi-line comment or the single line comments, okay, comments are used to document a code. That's number 1. They are also used to block off a block of code if you don't want Python to run that code. So it can be useful, for instance, when you are testing your code. Maybe you wrote a program, and the program is not running the way you expected it. So if the program is not running the way you expected it, and you are trying to investigate the area where the fault might come from, it is normal for you to use these multi-line comments. So, which means that if my code is not running properly, and I want to test maybe from here to here, all I just need to do is, let me assume that this thing is not there. You can see that the color of everything has come back because the commenting stuff has been removed. So if I want to comment maybe from here to here alone, I can highlight it. Once you highlight it, just type these 3 quotes, 1, 2, 3. Automatically, it will comment the beginning to the end. Automatically, when you highlight a particular block of code and you comment it out, that place becomes deactivated. Python will not see it again. You know, before this happened, if I put it this way and I run the program, okay, it's going to give me an error. I think there is an error somewhere because there's going to be an error because I did not comment out something there. Yeah, it's going to give me an error. The reason is that all these ones, this note I wrote here is not a code, so I'm supposed to comment it. Single line comment is represented with an hashtag, but if you want to comment multiple line, you use the 3 quotes. You use the hashtag for single line, You use the 3 quotes for multi lines. So I'm going to attend to Mary's question. You said, must you highlight it before you comment? It's not compulsory. Okay, so you can easily put the single quotes. You can put the single quotes and the 3 single quotes stuff at the top and the bottom manually. See, let me tell you, we programmers, we are very lazy by nature. We always look for shortcuts to achieve anything we want to achieve. You understand it now? So shortcuts, you're going to be learning a whole lot of shortcuts along the line as you are advancing in code. You understand it now? So now one of the things you do, like instead of putting it like this, instead of putting 3 quotes, 1, 2, 3. Okay, all right, good. So as we proceed, you asked the question. You said, do you highlight before adding your quotes? Okay, it is not compulsory. It is not compulsory. Okay, you can do it manually. So which means I might just say, I will just have it like this. You put it 1, 2, 3, and you come under here, the place where you want it to end, 1, 2, 3, and then it will block out all that place alone. But the shortcut is that you can just highlight it. Okay, you can just highlight it like this and put the quote 1, 2, 3. It will automatically cover the top, the beginning and the ending automatically. It will automatically cover it for you. You understand? So that's how it goes. Just a shortcut. It's not compulsory you do that, but you do whichever one that is convenient for you. Any other question again? Okay, good. So now we can continue. So I've taught you 3 things now. I've taught you 2 things. Number 1, you've learned how to use the print statement. Number 2, you've learned the single line comments. And number 3, you have learned the multi-line comments and how to use it and what they are used for. Is there any question concerning these 3 things that you have learned so far? All right, no question. It means we are good to go. All right, all the newcomers that are here, do you have any question before I continue? All the newcomers here, do you have any question before I continue? Yeah, you said, please, is the single line comment 1 quote? Yes, that is the convention. 1 quote, like 1, 2, 1, like the single quote, you write it 3 times. Okay, the single line comments is represented with an hashtag. If you want to do a single line comment, see, this one I did in line number 4 is a single line comment. You see that the color has changed when I remove the hash. But if you want it back, just put the hash, the color will change. So, the moment the color changes, Python is telling you that that place has been deactivated. So it's no longer part of your code. It is just your own personal notes for your own reading. Python doesn't see it again. But if you want Python to consider that place, you remove the hashtag, the color will change. Then Python begins to see it as part of your code. So that's how it works. So this one can only work for single line. It cannot work for multiple line. You understand? So if you want to cover more than 1 lines, then you use the quotes, you use the multi-line comments. But if you just only one single line you want to comment, you use the single line comments. So that's how it works. All right. So any question again before we continue? You see that I'm taking my time. I'm taking my time with you guys. I want you to understand it very well, because every other thing we are going to be doing is based on this understanding. And if you don't get it, you might find it very difficult to get along. Okay, so in the absence of no other question, we move. The next thing I'm going to teach you now, after that, the next thing I'm going to teach you is what we call variables and constants. Variables and constants. Variables and constants. You need this very much. You need to know how to use it very much. First, what do we call variables and what do we call constants? If you have something like this, for instance, maybe you have You know, in mathematics, you can say x is equal to 10. All right, that's mathematics for you. X is equals to 10. As far as mathematics is concerned, and as far as programming is also concerned, this x is a variable. All right, the x is variable because it can contain different values at different times. For now, x is 10, but at another time, the value of x can change. Now, this 10 that you are seeing x as, that 10 is a constant. So which means what you have here is 10, so 10 is a constant. Then when you say x is equal to 10, you are trying to tell Python that Python, anytime, Python, take this value 10 and save it inside what? The variable x. So this value 10 is a constant, is a number, is a numeric constant. So which means you will say 10, the number 10, okay, is a numeric constant. Now you see, I am putting this note for Python. I am writing this note because I know that Python will not see this one. It is only me that can see it. Only you that can see it. The moment I put the hashtag, the moment I write hash, anything I type after the hash, Python doesn't see it again. So Python program does not even see it as part of your code. It is just your own personal notes. I'm reiterating. You're going to be using it a whole lot. Okay? So that's that as per that. But you see this one in color, Python is seeing it. That's the reason why it is in color. This one that is also not in color, Python doesn't see it. Nothing concerns Python with it. Okay? It doesn't see it. So now, me saying 10 is equal to, x is equal to 10. I'm just trying to tell Python that please save the value, which is the constant, numeric constant 10, save it inside x, the variable x. So you say the number 10 is a numeric constant and x is a variable. Number 10 is a numeric constant and x is a variable. So please take notes. Now, so if you have something like this, maybe you have y is equal to x plus 5. If you have something like this, y is equal to x plus 5. So before we proceed, please, can anybody tell me how many constants and how many variables do we have here? Can you tell me how many constants and how many variables that we have here? Or just point to the constants and point to the variables. Okay, so what you are trying to tell me that x is a variable and y is also a variable, right? Hello? Hello? So,
yes, I think that's what she means.
Okay, you said x is a variable and y is also a variable, then 5 is constant, right? Yeah. Okay, because she didn't speak up, so I could hardly hear. All right, yes, she's correct. You can see x is a variable, y is a variable, and 5 is constant. Now, it doesn't matter whether something is on this side or something is on this side. Variable can be anywhere, a constant can be anywhere, but where sides actually matter is that this thing that you are seeing on the left hand side of the equality sign is going to contain the result of everything that happens on this right hand side. But it doesn't mean that this x is not a variable. It doesn't mean that because it's on this side, so therefore it's a constant. No way. The only thing that is a constant here is 5. X remains a variable, y remains a variable. I believe you can understand that. So now, again, I actually want you to see, to understand something else here again, that that every variable in Python, in this particular IDE, every variable is represented in white color. You see that x is white, y is white, X here is white, but the numbers are represented in something that is looking like orange color. Do you understand? So all those color codes are important. You see this print statement too is a function. So because it's a function, it is represented in purple. This Emmanuel is a string, and because it's a string, it's represented in green. This plus is an operator, and because it's an operator, it is represented in blue. So all those color codes, they have their meaning, and it is just there so that you won't be mixing things up. That's why they are there. You understand it now? So X is a variable, Y is a variable. The X here is also a variable, period. Now let us see if this thing that we are doing makes sense. What if we say print X? You know, I have already said it before earlier that X is equal to 10. So if I say print X, I expect Python to give me the results, right? Remember that we said print 5 plus 7, and it gave us the result as 12. Print Emmanuel gave us the result as Emmanuel. Now print X is expected to give us the result as 10. So let's see whether X is truly 10. Yeah, correct. We see that the first one, 7 plus 5 is 12. The second print statement is Emmanuel. The third print statement says 10 because we've already said that X is equal to 10. Okay, so that is how it goes. Now, the next thing is I want to test whether this number 9 is correct. What if I say print Y? Before I say print Y, before I can get the answer of print Y, how many people here, how many of you can tell me what result you are expecting? If I say print Y, old commas, please don't say anything except you want to ask a question. Only newcomers are the ones I want to answer me throughout today. I want to be sure whether they are getting it. Yes?
15.
Good, brilliant. You are expecting 15. Why? Because X has been initially declared to be 10. And since X is declared to be 10, Python keeps seeing X as 10 every time, unless something changes it. But as far as Python is concerned, X is still 10 for now. So when you put 10, X as 10 here, and then you add Y to it, it becomes 15. So this is why we carry the result of the outcome of X plus 5. And so therefore Y is 15. So let us run it whether we are going to be correct or not. Ta-da! It is truly 15. Okay? So you can see that all the results I am giving, that we are having, everything is arranged under each other. If you want to give a space, you can see that despite the fact that I put a space here, and I put a space here, and I put a space here, all my results did not have space. So it is normal. All those empty spaces that you put here does not matter to Python. Python program will still run. Even though you put 20 spaces there, it will still run. The code will still run as if there is no space there. Do you understand it now? So, but if you want to deliberately keep a space in the results, in the output, what you will do is that if you want a space to be in the output deliberately, you can use, there are several methods, but as a beginner, what you can do is you can put an empty print statement in between. Put an empty print statement in between. And by the time you put an empty print statement, you see that I put a print and I did not put anything in the bracket. If you run this code, it is going to put space between all of them, because that's anything that you did not put in the bracket is you are trying to tell print that, okay, display empty line. Since you didn't put anything in the bracket, you are asking Python to display empty line, and that is exactly what it did. So I believe I'm passing some message here. Okay, so now I have just taught you 4 things now, right? Or 5 things. I've taught you number 1, how to use the print statement and the use of the print statement. Number 2, I have taught you about single line comments. Number 3, I taught you about multiple line comments. Number 4, I have just finished teaching you about variable. And number 5, I taught you about constants. Now, I've not finished my topic on variables and constants. There are still some things I need to touch about it. So let's go. Yeah, you have understood that this X here is this 10 here is a numeric constant. And then you have understood that 10 is a numeric constant. What about the non-numeric constants? I can say name is equal to Emmanuel. Saying name is equal to Emmanuel. Saying that name is equal to Emmanuel here, I've just mentioned this Emmanuel here is a non-numeric constant because it's not a number, but yet it is a constant. So this non-numeric constant is called string. And because it's a string, you represent them, you put a quote around it. If you don't put quote around it, Python will think it is a variable. This name that you are seeing here is a variable. X is a variable. Y is a variable. Okay? This name is a variable. You can give variable anything you like. You can make it a single character, you can make it a multiple character, no problem. But in as much as you do not put a quote around it, so Python sees it as a variable. But the one that you put a quote around, Python doesn't see it as variable, it sees it as a string. Okay? So it knows that you are trying to indicate a numeric constant, and it is going to leave it like that. But this one that does not have quotes is going to be seen as a variable. See, if I remove this quote, the moment I remove this quote like this, instantly the color will change to white because Python begins to see it immediately as a variable. And if I run this program, it is going to give me an error because it will tell me that I have not defined this variable Emmanuel. It says name error, right? It says Emmanuel is not defined, which means it is assuming that I have created a variable, but I have not put a value in that variable. Every variable must have a value in Python programming. You can see that when I declared variable x, I assign a value to it, which is 10. When I declared variable y, I assign these two other operands to it as value. That is how it works. But so when you assign name, okay, Python is beginning to see that, okay, fine. The next thing that is going to be on the other side is it's supposed to be a value that should be assigned to this, but it's now another variable. Fine, it acknowledges this one as a variable, but it's seeing this one as like, okay, fine, it's also a variable, but you have not assigned a value to it. So it's going to bring up an error. In order to avoid that error, so what you do is that since you know that Emmanuel is a quote, Emmanuel is a string, put a quote around it and it is okay. Another thing again I've not told you about strings is that you can either use single quotes or double quotes. It works fine, no problem. You can use a single quote or a double quote, no problem. Both of them work perfectly. Okay? So you can see that Emmanuel that I represented here carries double quotes. The Emmanuel that I'm putting here is single quotes. No problem. It will still work very well. All right? So that is how it goes. If I now say print name, of course, if I say print name, by the time I run this program, it's going to give me the results, Emmanuel. You can see that this 15 and this Emmanuel, they are coming together just simply because I did not put an empty print in between y and the next print statement. Okay? So, because I didn't put an empty print, now I just put it here. So if I run it again now, it's going to put a space between the last result and this new result. So that is how it goes. Okay? When you scroll up, you see the other results that we've gotten earlier. So the print statement in Python programming is to display output so that you can be able to see it in the console. This is where we call the console, the display unit, the place where the results are being displayed. This is the coding environment, the place where you type in your code. Okay? Or I believe you can get that. So I'm using simple terms. By the time we start to advance, I'm going to be hitting you up with big terms, but you will learn everything before then. But now you're still a baby, I'm going to be treating you as one. All right, now I've just discussed to you about the non-numeric strings, which are otherwise called, the non-numeric constants, which are otherwise called strings. Okay, so what if I need to play a little game, like if I want to do some other things around it? Maybe I want to write something, I can say, maybe I want to write something like Emmanuel is 10 years old. If I want to write Emmanuel is 10 years old, knowing fully well that x is equal to 10 and name is equal to Emmanuel, I can just do some things to play around it. Okay? So I can just say something like print. I can say something like print in quotes. Okay, since I have Emmanuel before as a variable, I will just call the name the variable. Name, okay, name, you now put a quote, you put is, then you say, since you know before that x is 10, just say x, and then you put a quote around it. Oh, sorry. You put a quote around it, and then put years old. All right. So we have it here. Name is x years old, because this name is a variable whose value is called Emmanuel, and this x is a variable whose value is called 10. So instead of me to say Emmanuel is 10 years old, I can say name is x years old. But the thing is that you must separate, this is a variable, while this one is a constant. You must separate variables and constants with a comma when you are using this method. Separate variables and constants with a comma. All right, so just put a comma here, you put a comma here, and we are good to go. It is very important for you to do that. If you don't do that, the program will not run, it will return an error. Okay, so when you have constants and variables together inside a print statement, the precaution is that you separate the constant and the variable with a comma. Okay, so each time you want to cross from variable to constant or to a string, okay, then you put a comma. From string back to variable, you put another comma. From variable back to string again, you put another comma. Very important. By the time you run this program, it's going to give us the exact result that we expected. Emmanuel is 10 years old, because this variable name here is Emmanuel, and this variable x here is 10. Okay, so that is how it goes. Now, if I want you to do a short exercise now, so that you can be so sure that you are getting it right. Go to, for those of you that are just joining the group, and what's, you just hide the single line comments, right? Okay. And for those of you who are just joining, if you want to code like I am coding now, just visit www.online-python.com, online-python.com. Okay, and it's going to take you exactly to this platform that I am using. Whatever you see on the screen, wipe it out and start your own new code. Now, the assignment I want to give you now is that everybody, please, using these values, I want you to create something around it. Create a print statement that will generate a sentence. Create a sentence using the print statement with these variables and constants. Let's say name is equal to, you can put your name there. In this case, I am putting my own name, Emmanuel. All right. Let me write it in the IDE. All right, so I want to just comment out all of this. Let me just comment them out. Okay. 1, 2, 3, and everything turns green. Okay, so I've commented them out using the 3 quotes at the ending and 3 at the beginning. Everything is inactive. Even if I press run now, nothing is going to run. That place will be empty because Python is not seeing anything again. It is only you that can see it because you have commented it out. So now I want to write a new code. Let me say name is equal to, you can put your own name there, but let me put Shade, and then let me say age is equal to 16. Then let me say money is equal to, please mute your mic, oh, who is there? Shit. Ah. All right. So if I say name is Shadi, okay, let's just take it simple. All right. So I want you to create a sentence. Create a sentence with your own name. All right. Saying Shade is 16 years old. So that the thing will come out like this when you run your program. All right, so please quickly do that. I give you 1 minute. I give you 1 minute to do that. Name is Shadi. Age is 16. Create a sentence that says Shadi is 16 years old. And then I also want you to create another sentence saying, please, you said Python is case sensitive. How do we know? Okay, I'm coming. I'll come to that. 16. I want you to create another sentence using the print statement that says 16, that says it is good to be 16 because of Shadi. Create two statements for me. Okay, the first one says Shadi is 16 years old. The second one is it is good to be 16 because of Shadi. I want to see you do it. And then while this one is going on, let me answer the other question. So, Mary Arthur, you asked a question. You said Python is case sensitive. How do we know when to use small and capital letter? How do you know when you use small and capital letters? Because I thought it's small letters and small letters all true, but I noticed with the strings you start with capital letter. Yes, very, very true. All right, so when I tell you that Python is case sensitive, when I tell you that Python is case sensitive, it is only case sensitive with respect to the special words or the reserved words. Okay? It is only case sensitive with respect to the reserved words. What am I calling reserved words? Well, all those prints and all those things. And then also case sensitive with respect to the variables too. Please, very important. Now, I'm going to demonstrate something to you. All right, check this. If you have something like this, please don't be distracted. For you that are doing the assignment, you can continue. If you have something like this as these prints, instead of writing print with small letter p, and I decide to write it with capital letter P, you will see that, okay, let me say I put capital letter P here, and then I write it like this. You see that Python is no longer seeing it as a print, as a normal, it's not seeing it as, you know, the normal print stuff is purple in color. All right, so Python is no longer seeing it like that, but Python is seeing it as something else. It's in fact seeing it as a variable. Do you understand it now? So, and that is that. Oh, sorry, people who are joining the chats, just hold on. Okay. All right, good. So I was adding people to the class. Okay, now let's proceed. So I was trying to explain something to you. Python is very, very case sensitive, and I thank you for bringing that notice to me. It's in your notes. The note I gave to you guys before you joined the class this evening. You know, I asked you to study the notes before joining the class. Okay, so Python is case sensitive because if you see that, let me deactivate this code. Let me activate this code back. You see that everywhere that print is mentioned, print comes in purple. Print comes in purple because it is a method, okay, or a function. So the original color is purple. But if the moment I say capital letter P instead of the small letter p that we used to know, you will see that the color is not the same. Trying to show you exactly that Python is seeing small letter print different from capital letter print, which means this thing means something else entirely to Python. Entirely. You understand? So Python is very, very case sensitive, especially when you are naming variables. For instance, if I put something like this, maybe I say I want to put a variable. I say, okay, instead of writing variable name, I say variable name. Name is equal to Ima. Oh, sorry. Name is Ima. If you run this program, Python is seeing this one different from this one. What is here is not the same as what is here, as far as Python is concerned. Do you get it now? By the time you run the code, okay, let me put a print statement there so that you can be able to know. Let's say prints name. Although this is a very bad convention, you don't use a capital letter to start a variable in Python. In programming itself, it's not, I'm still coming to that. I'm just trying to take everything step by step. It's not as if the program will not run, but it's just a bad practice to do that. Do you get it now? So it's run and it gave us the result, which is Ima here. Okay. So, but if I say print into brackets NAME, okay, and I run it, you are going to have the second one. You can see that Python sees NAME in capital different from NAME small. It's run the two of them differently because as far as Python is concerned, this guy is different from this guy because of the capital letter that you put here. So that's why you say Python is case sensitive. The letter or the lettering matters to it. Do you understand it now? So it's like that for variables, like that for the keywords, it's like that but the only thing you can write the way you like is your string. You can write it anyhow you want it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. Do you understand? So, any other question again before we proceed? Any question regarding that before I continue? For all those newcomers, you are welcome. Okay, Mary, good. So, all those newcomers, you are welcome. If you are just joining this, okay, newcomers, you are welcome. If you are just joining this platform, please, we are writing a code on Python. We are learning programming with Python, learning how to program with Python. And this is I had to start all the way afresh because of the new guys that are joining, so that whatever we are doing after now, you'll be able to move along with us without having issues. So regardless of what you want to do in Python, there are some things you cannot do without. And those things are the things I'm teaching you tonight. I'm teaching you what we call, I'm teaching you constants, I'm teaching you variables, I'm teaching you prints, and all of those things. Those things are basic things in Python. You cannot do without them. So that is the reason. And then the IDE, that is the Integrated Development Environment. To cut the long story short, the coding environment that we are using tonight to run our code, since most of you will be using your device, you'll be using your phone. So please, this is the platform, www.online-python.com. Online-python.com. That is the code, that is the name, that is the sites that we are using. Once you log on to the site, you are going to see some code on that site, default code. Just erase it and start your own code. And if you enter the site, it is possible that it comes in white. And if you want to change it to black background, this dark mode, like the one I'm using here, click on this symbol that is here. This first symbol here, this change thing, it will take you to the dark mode. All right, so now I don't think there are any new person again, so we move. Is there any other question again before we continue? Now I gave you an assignment. I gave you a task just now. So please just check it out and submit the task. You can share your screen. I gave you a task. If you know that you are done, I gave you a task just now. And if you know that you are done with the task, you can share your screen, please. I gave you a task. If you are done with your task, please share your screen. All right, before I wait for that, how many of you have even carried out the task? Should I continue and leave everything to the end of the class? All right, no problem. Let me continue the class because I'm recording it. So let me continue the class. Then I will give you tasks to do after the class. Then you submit in the WhatsApp group, or you submit to the dedicated number where you submit your assignments. Then the moment I see your assignments, I will attend to it and let you know where you got it wrong, if you are wrong in any way. Now let us continue. So, okay, those of you that are just joining, you may have to just flow along. I'm sure you will get it somehow. We have done a couple of things before you came in. Okay, so but just flow along and let's see how far we can go. Now, I'll be using style to go back small so that it won't be like magic in the mind of those who are just joining us. Now, so name is equal to Shade, age is 16, and I ask you to create a sentence with your own name saying Shade is 16 years old. So this is the first task I gave you, and then let us achieve the task together. Since you know that name is Shade and age is 16, and I say you should do that using the print statements. Okay, open the bracket, and then you open the bracket and put Shade is name, because this is the constant. This is a constant, Shade, and this is a variable which is storing the name, which is storing this constant, this value called Shade. So which means that if you open this skeleton, if you open the flesh of this thing called name, this variable called name, what you see inside is Shade. Because the moment you assign Shade to it, it begins to bear the name Shade from that point. So anytime Python sees name as a variable, it sees it as Shade from this moment on. So, but you know, I have assigned name, Emmanuel, to name before, so I don't want a clash. So although it will not change anything, when it is name, when it gets to this place, it is going to display what is here. And when it gets to this place, is going to display what is here. So doesn't change anything, doesn't affect it anyway. So you can say print Shade is 16 years old is what I want to display. So all I just do is that I come here and say I come here and say name. Instead of writing Shade, I represent the variable name. Okay, and then you say, but every other thing is written in form of you put it inside quotes. Any string is put inside quotes so that Python will not misinterpret it for you. Because when you don't put quote around it, you will think that you are trying to indicate a variable. Okay, so you must put quote around it. So is 16 years old. 16 is also 16 has been saved inside a variable. So instead of writing 16, you can put the variable there, which is age. Then open this bracket and put years old. All right. So name is age years old, which means Shade is 16 years old. But if you don't want a problem here, between every variable and every constant, you must always put a comma. So you put a comma here. Okay. This is a constant. As you are switching into variable, you put another comma. This is a variable age, and as you are switching into constant, you put another what? Comma again. Put another comma, and then everything is set. If you don't do that, it's going to give you issue. It's going to return an error. But now that you have done all that, by the time you run this program, you see the result. It says Shade is 16 years old. Bingo. Now let's assume I did not put the comma. If you put equal, if you remove all those comma and you run it, it's going to give an issue. You see, it says syntax error, invalid syntax. Okay, so that's what you get from that. And then it tries to point to the place where it's suspecting the error might have come from. You can see the arrow. It's pointing the arrow to the place where it thinks the error might have come from. So that's how it does for you. Okay, so but to correct that, put a comma in between every variable and constants. Okay, so this Shade here is a constant, is a string constant. Please send the recording to the group for us, new comments and review. No problem. After the class, you get the recording. So, all right. So we have Shade here, and then you have name. Okay. And 16 is also a constant, but it's a numeric constant. And then we have age. So I believe you've understood everything now. I believe everything is clear to you. Any question? Now the second one, I said it is good to be 16 because of Shade. I want you to form this sentence. It is good to be 16 because of Shade, using Python program and the print statements. Well, if you want to do that, what you do is that since you have been given two variables, you have been given a variable here as name and another variable here as age. Name is Shade, age is 16. And then you want to say it is good to be 16 because of Shade. So it's more like you are saying, it is good to be, that 16 is a variable. So you're going, that 16 is, it has a variable that represented it already. So just say it is good to be age, okay, and say because of this because of, it has to be in quotes. It is good to be age, and then because of, and then you put the other one, Shade, which is name. It is good to be age because of name. That is, it is good to be Shade. It is good to be 16 because of Shade. Okay, so you can say it is good to be, age is 16 described earlier. Okay, name is Shade described earlier. So instead of, so in an attempt to write it is good to be age, it is good to be 16 because of Shade, you say it is good to be age because of name. Remember what I said to you before, that you should always separate the constants from the variables using a comma. This, everything that is inside the string here, inside the quote here, is a constant. The one written in white like this is a variable. Okay, so this one is a string, it's a string, while this one is variable. So to separate the two of them, you put a comma, Okay, so that is, as you are leaving the area of the variable of the constant to switch to the variable, you put a comma. As you are leaving the variable to switch to the constant, you also put a comma. Now lastly, as you are leaving the constant to switch to the next variable, you also put a comma. So comma must be there in between every constant and variable. So by the time you run it now, it is going to be perfect. It is good to be 16 because of Shadi, and then that is how it goes. Okay, so there are some other information I may not be passing in this video, but everything is in your notes. Okay, so this video I just wanted to use it to touch some very cogent area where you will need, so that you can always be able to follow us up in other classes while you are learning the fundamentals along the line. So the fundamentals, I have a note, a very comprehensive note, easy to read, sweet to read notes. You'll be reading it, you will not even know when you enter page 10. I have it on this foundation topic. So you read the notes and then you use it to understand all of these things even much better. Okay, so after the class, I'm going to drop it in the WhatsApp group. All right, so okay, somebody even shared a code in the WhatsApp screen in the group, says couldn't. Okay. All right, good. Somebody dropped the result of his assignment in the WhatsApp group. I think I should just unmute the group so that everybody can chat there in case you need attention. Okay, now we move on to the next stage. Okay, please, there is something I've not yet told you about variables, and I think it's very important. Number one, when you are indicating variables, okay, when you are declaring variables in Python programming, don't start it with a capital letter. That's rules. Okay, let me say rules for declaring variables. Rules for declaring variables. Number one, let me put it in form of a comment like this. Rule number one, please, if I put the hashtag, for those of you that are just joining us, this hashtag means a comment. Anything I put, the moment I write the hashtag like this, anything I write after it on that same line, Python does not see it. It is only you and me that can see it. Python doesn't see it, doesn't recognize it. So when the code is running, it's not going to run as part of the code. Okay, please take note. It is just your own personal notes or the notes given to whoever is reading the code. And all these spaces I am putting here, they don't matter. Whether you put 20 spaces, the result will still come out normally. But the space here is just good. It's good to space your coding in order to improve what we call readability, so that your code will be very clear. It will not be clumsy. You understand? So it's good to put all those spaces there, especially when you are dealing with something else, something different from the previous thing that you were dealing with before. You get? So that is how it goes. Now, rule number one. Although it will not affect your code, but it's not a good programming practice to start your variable with a capital letter. Please, it is not good to start your variables with a capital letter. Okay, it is advised to use small letter. Now, number two, rule number two, it is wrong to put space in a variable name. It is wrong to put space in a variable name. Okay? So which means if I want to declare age, you understand it now? Instead of me to say, maybe I want to say Shade's age, Shade's age as a variable name. You know, I could say Shade, I could say Shade's age. Let me say Shade age, okay, is equal to 16. if you run it like this, you are confusing Python, because by so doing, you are putting two variables side by side, and Python is looking like, which one of them is going to carry the value 16? Okay, which one of them is going to be equal to 16? Is it this? Is it age, or is it Shade? So, but to let Python know that this is a single word, you can simply separate it with an underscore. You can put an underscore there, so Python sees it as a single word. Okay, or you can say something like this. You can say Shade, then you put age. So this one is also correct. This thing you see here is called Camel Casing. Sorry, this is the use of underscore. The use of underscore. Why the one below here is called the use of what? Camel Casing. Camel Casing is like, how do you do Camel Casing? The very first word is a small letter, but every other word that follows will be capital letter, but everything will be joined together. Okay, so if I want to use Camel Casing and say name of teacher, I can say name of teacher. Name of teacher. This is Camel Casing. All right. So you say name. The next word will start with a capital letter. Then another word again will start with the capital letter. This is what we call Camel Casing. Even though we have 50 words, each of them will be starting with a capital letter. But the very first one starts with a small letter. So, which means it is wrong to put space in a variable name. So use either Camel Casing, or you use underscore. Use Camel Casing or underscore to separate no need for story. You know what I'm trying to say. Use either Camel Casing or underscore. So that's that as per that. So when you say Shade age, okay, Shade underscore age, or you use Shade age. So here you can say Shade's age is equal to 16, or you can say 20, no problem. Okay, if you say Shade's age here too is equal to, 25 or 20, no problem. Everything is still going to work very fine. Okay, so that is how it goes. That is another rule. That is rule number 2. Please, all the other things that you need as notes, I don't want to cover all the fundamentals within this class and then call it a day, so that any other class you begin to have after this class, you will be able to catch up. Like, you fall in, you understand it better, and then you won't have issues. Okay, so that's as per that. Every other thing, like details I'm skipping because of time, you find them in your notes. Try to study the notes at the end of the class. Okay, so I've taught you constants and variables. Now the next thing that I want to teach you here is the data types in Python. Data types in Python. So I'm going to comment everything here so that Python will not see it. So you highlight everything and you put 3 quotes. By the time you write 3 quotes after the highlighting, everything goes off. So Python is not seeing all those things again. If I click on run, it's going to give me empty results. Nothing is going to be there. So now okay, next topic is data types in Python. Data types in Python. Okay, so there are 4 major types of data in Python. Okay, we have the first one that is called, the very first one is called string. Number 1, string. So strings are non-numeric constants, okay, it is either a single character, can be a single character, can be a word, or a blend of numbers and words. Please, another rule that I think this one I shouldn't skip it. A rule that I did not remember to mention. Even if I skip anything, I should not skip this one, which is the rule number 3. Rule number 3 says never starts a Python variable. Never start a variable with a number. It is forbidden. It's not even only in Python, in other programming languages too. Never start a variable with a number. It is going to give error. By the time you run the code, it will say syntax error. Variables cannot start with numbers. That one is something very important that I shouldn't forget at all. So these 3 rules of declaring variables, keep them in mind. Number 1, you don't start a variable with a small letter. Number 2, you don't space variable names. Okay, instead of spacing, you can use either Camel Casing, or you use underscore. Okay, so please, it is not good to start a variable with a number. Never start with a number. And so that's that as for that. Okay, but now back to the story. So when I say Shade underscore age is equal to 20, oh, sorry, I've explained all of that before. Don't let me go back. Sorry. Okay. Data types in Python. Number 1, we have the string. So they are non-numeric constants, which are, it can be a single character, it can be a word, or a blend of numbers and characters, no problem. String is string. Okay? But very important, a note very important is that to represent strings, very important that you must keep them inside either a single quote or a double quote. Either a single quote or a double quote. It is very important. The reason is that so that Python would not assume it to be a variable. It's very important that when you are representing strings, you put them inside a quote so that Python will not think they are variables. So the moment you strip the code off, it will assume they are variables. You understand? So that is that as per that. Now let's move on. Number 1 data type we have in Python is string. So example of strings, we have examples are when you say Emmanuel, that's an example. When you say Two-Face, it's an example. Okay. When you say B2Z, like the name of one of the participants in this program, one of our group admin, that's his company name, B2Z, is also a string, okay? And so on and so forth. But so far you just put them inside quotes, no problem, you are good to go. I believe that is clear. So that is the type of data in Python. Number 2 data type in Python. So I think I'm going to, instead of using multiple hashtags, let me use Okay, let me use the multi-line quotes, multi-line in comments. Okay, good. So number two, another data type in Python to consider is string. Integers, integers. Number two. What are integers? See, I am teaching you very, very slow. I'm not this slow when I'm teaching you. When you get to become a pro, like in about 1 or 2 weeks time, I'll be talking very fast. I'm taking it very slow because I want you to follow through and understand. And please, if you don't understand any parts of this, any part whatsoever, before I go too far, call my attention and I will explain to you clearly. If there's any parts you don't get or you don't understand, call my attention. I'm not talking about the people that are just coming inside now, because we have gone far. So, okay, now let's go. Number two, we have just talked about strings. I said strings are non-numeric constants. Okay, so a string is a non-numeric constant, and it is either a single character or a word, or maybe a blend of characters and numbers and all of that, but we must represent them inside quotes. Very important. Next one is integer. Okay, integers. These are whole numbers. Integers are just plainly whole numbers, period. Okay, so you can say an example is number 2, number 50, number 100, or 1000. In as much as it's just a whole number, then it is an integer, period. No story. Okay, so that's that. And we still move. Number 3, we have what we call floats. Floats are also numbers, okay? But they are just decimal numbers. So these are numbers with fractional parts. Numbers with fractional parts. They are just decimal numbers. Floats, period. Okay? Example, we have 2.5. We have 30.2 or 30.0. In as much as it has a decimal, even though it's 30.0, Python, as far as Python is concerned, there is a difference between 30 and 30.0. 30 is an integer, 30.0 is a float, period. So in as much as it has a decimal point, then Python ceases to see it as an integer, but rather sees it as a float. Okay, so you can have a 0.012 or something like 21 or thereabout. All of these ones are examples of floats. Very important. Now the next one, which is number 4. Number 4 is Boolean. The Boolean data type, is represented in the Boolean data type is it only gives 2 values, either true or false. That's what it gives as its result. But for now, because we are still at the foundation stage, you see, we've not really come across the need. We have not reached where we need to start using the Boolean data type. But just for you to be aware that it exists, Boolean data types, these are data that can either be true as a value or false as a value. That's all. It's just true or false. You are going to understand them later on, or how they are used, or other things about them. But just have the awareness that there are some data types called Boolean in Python, and Boolean are data types that returns the value true or false. Okay, so there are data that the value can either be true or false. That's all. So now let's see, why do we need to learn about these data types? Well, you will soon see that as we begin to operate with numbers and as we want to start manipulating strings and all of those things, you need to put into account the kind of data that you are trying to deal with, so that Python knows exactly how it is going to approach it and give you the expected results. So, but we are going to all of these things later on. Without wasting time, the next topic I want to teach you is operators in Python. Let me put it like arithmetic, because there are so many types of operators. So, but here we are dealing with arithmetic operators in Python. So, arithmetic operators means operators that work with numbers, or that work on numbers, or whatever. Operators that work on numbers, or let me say that work with numbers. See, English is not my language, I'm managing. So operators that work with numbers. So that's what we call the arithmetic operators in Python. Please, if you cannot hear me at some points, I'm just trying to relax myself. But if you know that I'm not audible enough, please let me know so I can raise my voice. So arithmetic operators in Python are these operators that works on numbers, okay? And they are just the normal thing that you and I know in mathematics, okay? The normal things like we have the plus, number one, the addition operator, number one, the addition operator. Well, addition operator is represented by the regular thing that we know, regular plus. Addition operator is represented by plus, as we know. Okay, we have number two. The subtraction. We have the subtraction operator, number two. Okay, and subtraction operator is just normally for subtracting two. So we have the addition operator here, which is plus. We have the subtraction operator, which is minus. Okay, we also have we have the addition operator, the subtraction operator, we have the division operator. The division operator. And the division operator is like this forward slash. Division in Python is represented by forward slash. Okay, so number four, we are going to check everything out. And then we have the multiplication operator. Which means if you want to multiply two numbers in Python, okay, it is not the regular times. But when you want to multiply two numbers, you use asterisk. In Python, you use asterisk. Not the regular times, you use asterisk. Okay? Alright, so that's how it goes. And then the other one that we have, number five, is the exponentiation operator. The exponentation. This exponentation is what we call, in mathematics, we call it power, raised to power. So if you want to do anything raised to power anything in Python, you use double asterisk. Please don't use the kappa, you use double asterisk in Python. When you want to do anything raised to power anything, use the double asterisk. Okay? So we are going to have examples for all of this when I'm done listing them. Okay? So number 6. Number 6, you have the double division operator, but that is not the name it is called, but that's the name I call it. As you have the double asterisk, so we also have the double division. But the double division, the job it does is it divides two numbers and cuts out the decimal parts. That is, if it divides two numbers and the two numbers it divides as decimal, it will cut out that decimal parts. So the double division operator divides two numbers and cuts out the decimal parts. That's what it does. Okay, then number 7. Okay, so, but for this experimentation in its own case, it gives the power of one number to another. Okay, like raised to power. So it raises the power of one number to another. Okay, so the next one, number 7, I think this should be the last one. This number 7 is, sorry, somebody is joining the class. All right, so this number 7 here is the modulus operator. The modulus operator. So modulus operator is represented by percentage. It's represented by percentage. So anytime you see percentage, then you are talking about modulus. Well, modulus, what it does is that it divides two numbers, but instead of giving you the result of the division, what it will give you instead is going to be like it's going to be the remainder. So that is, it divides two numbers and gives the remainder as result. So what it does is that it will divide two numbers and then the result is going to be a remainder. Okay, the outcome or the output is going to be a remainder. So let us quickly put all of these things, let us put them into work. So we've learned that plus is the normal plus, minus is normal minus, subtraction is normal minus, addition is normal plus, division is normal, but division is forward slash. Okay, while multiplication is an asterisk, experimentation is double asterisk, double division operator is, double slash, double forward slash, and then what it does is that it divides two numbers and cuts out the decimal parts. While the modulus operator, which is percentage, it divides two numbers and gives the remainder as a result. So let's see how all of these things work. So remember that in Python programming, the print statement is used to display results. The print statement is used to display results. So I'm going to close up these comments. I'm closing it up, so it's no longer, so everything from under it is no longer affected. So now we go. So remember that as far as this comment is concerned, everything I've written so far, Python is not seeing them. It started from here when I put 3 quotes, and then it ends here. It ends here when I put another 3 quotes. Everything in between those two, Python does not see them. It doesn't even know they exist. If I run the program, it's not going to put anything into account over there. So it is just a note, a personal note for me to have for myself. So Python doesn't recognize it. The print statement is used to display results in Python. For instance, if I want Python to display if I say print 3 and I run it, if I say print 3 and I run it, Python will return 3. You understand? It will return 3. If I say print 3 plus 5 and I run it, Python will return 8. You see that? So the print statement is just used to display results of a program, or, in Python. All right. So similarly, if I say print Shade, because Shade is a string, I have to put it inside quotes. Print Shade, and then you run it. Then it's going to give us Shade. Please mind you, Python is case sensitive. If I give a variable and I say name is equal to Shade, and I say small name is equal to Ima, then if I now say print name, if I say print name, or I say print, and I say print name, the small name, I was supposed to confuse Python, but never. I won't confuse Python will not be confused. Okay, if I run this program, Python sees the two things I wrote as different. It sees Shade, it sees the first one, which is capital name, as what? Shade, and then the second one, which is small name, as Emmanuel. In fact, if I decide to switch it over, if I decide to switch the print statement and say, okay, print small name and print big name, and I run it, then you see that it also switch them, just to tell you that he knows what he's doing. The small name, which is Ima, comes first. The big name, which is Shade, comes next. The one that starts with big letter. You understand it now? But remember what I told you, that it is a bad convention to start a variable name in Python with a capital letter. So you don't use capital letter. But I just use this area to just explain to you that Python is case sensitive. It sees two different things, even though you spell them the same way, but you put capital letter in some parts, it sees them differently. It doesn't see them as the same. Please take notes. All right. On a similar note too, if I say print, even the print statement, I start with small letter p. If I should change it to capital letter P, it's no longer the same print that we used to know. This is the print that we used to know in purple color. But this print, Python is seeing it as a variable, just like that name that I wrote earlier. So it's seeing it as a variable. It's not seeing it as a function anymore. So, but to return it, you put small letter p, then it sees it as a function. So this is a print function. Its work is to display results or display outputs, display things in the console. That is the work it does. So you can see now that print 3 plus 5, print Shade, it displays the results for us, and everything is fine. So now I am not dealing with numbers, with letters, with strings now. I want to deal strictly with numbers, because the topic I'm treating now is arithmetic operators in Python. And arithmetic operators, they work on numbers alone. So let's see how those arithmetic operators work. We have seen how plus works, right? So let's see how minus work. So if I say 5 minus 3 and I run the program, I'm going to have 2. So 3 plus 5 is 8, 5 minus 3 is 2. Then if I come here and say, okay, print, now the next one I want to consider is the division operator. So if I say print 10, okay, there is a comment. You say, oh, I almost asked why did Python accept capital letter N as variable. Thank you for making it clear. All right, good. So, oh, Meriato says, you said the class is 2 hours and it is 2 hours already. Can't it continue tomorrow? This is 9:15. It's okay, we cannot, let me just finish this part, then we can continue the rest tomorrow. But at least you have gotten the idea of the foundation. So anything that we do from tomorrow on, I'm very sure that you will get it clear. You will understand very well without issues. You'll be able to follow through. At least you've been able to know the meaning of constant, you've been able to know the meaning of variable, you've been able to know the work of print statements, you've also known some basic things, some arithmetic operators. So Any other thing we want to start doing after now, I'm very sure you'll be able to get them. So let's just complete this part of the story and then we call it a day. All right. So now let's say 10 divided by 2. Okay, 10 divided by 2 in Python, you are going to get 5.0. I'm going to tell you the reason why you are getting 5.0 is that basically anytime somebody is dividing in Python, division in Python is basically the result it will give you will definitely be a float by default. So if you do not want the result to be a float, so what you will now do this time around is to use the double division. If you don't want the result to be a float, you do like this. Float means decimal, okay? You put it like this. When you put double division and you run it, it's going to give you 5 sharp. 5 sharp. The only disadvantage of this type of approximation is that it doesn't round off. You know, it's supposed to round it up to the nearest whole number or something. For instance, if you have something like this, let me say print, if I say print 20 divided by, maybe 20 divided by 3, okay, and I run it, I'm going to get 6.666, whatever, okay. Now, if I get these results, if I want to approximate it to the nearest whole number, mathematics students know that I'm supposed to get 7, right? Mathematics students, you all know that I'm supposed to get 7. So if I now use the double division, maybe I now say something like this, and I put the double division, and then I run it. You see, instead of me to get 7, I still got 6. So the work that this guy doesn't stress himself. The thing he just does is that everything from the decimal points backward, it will just cut them off. It does not even bother trying to approximate, because ideally, mathematically, it's supposed to approximate. But if you want it to approximate, it's a topic for another day. There is the way we'll do it. There is another thing we use. We use typecasting. That one, it can approximate using that. Okay, but this one, no approximation. So we have it this way, and that is that as per that. So then that's 2, 4 / 4, that's 3. That's for division. And then if I want to do power, we all know that, okay, we all know that 2 raised to power 3 means 2 times 2 times 2. That's 2 raised to power 3. And the answer is 8. So you can have 2 double asterisk 3, and then you run the program. Definitely you are going to get the result 8. You see that? So that's how it goes. Which one have I not touched? Okay, yeah. So if you have something like this, 6 divided by 4. 6 divided by 4 mathematically, you say 1 whole number, 2 all over 4. 1 whole number, then 2 all over 4. That is, or you say 1 remainder 2, because it will remain 2. By the time 4 goes in 6 once, it will remain 2. That remainder that remains, that's left over. That is what modulus is after. Modulus is represented in percentage. That thing is what modulus is all after. It does not, nothing concerns it with the result of the division. The only thing that it returns to you is the remainder of the division. So by the time you run this program, definitely you're going to get 2, because 2 is the remainder when you divide 6 by 4. So that is how it works. Okay? So we have touched so many things this evening already. Since you are as in for the starting, so I'm going to remove all these things now, so it's no longer commented, so that I can send this code to the group. You can use it to practice. Okay. And that is the end of today's class. Is there anybody with any question? Anyone with question before we close down the group? Any question? Any question? So far, we have used 1 hour 48 minutes. Any question? That's what the recording says. Any question? Okay. All right, Augustina says no question. Any other person?
No question from me also.
Okay, I didn't know you go. Are you sure you understood everything because you came in late?
No. I'm already very familiar with it.
Oh, yeah. I don't forget, Seth. I don't forget, say you be coding guru. Okay.
I'm very familiar.
Yeah. All right. So B to Z, no questions. So in the absence of questions, I think we can call it a day. So yeah, for all of you that joined late, you are going to get the recording. I'm going to send the link to the recording in the WhatsApp group. They are shooting somewhere.
Where are they shooting from?
I'm here. They are shooting though. Are you watching an action film?
No, it's not out. It's not out.
Knockout.
Okay.
We never enter September.
It's not out in my area.
They vex on your area.
Very heavy one.
You December never reach now. What's in the happen?
I wonder why.
I want fear. I dey hear pra.
Yeah, very heavy.
Oh my God.
It's hot.
All right. So please, everybody, I want to tell you, please do me this favor. Don't miss any class, and you should be very consistent. You should also, share the group link to many people as possible. I'm going to drop the assignment in the WhatsApp group. So share the group link with as many as possible. Let many people join. We are targeting 500, and now we are still less than 200. The next class is most likely to be tomorrow. It all depends. So please share the group link with many people. But if at all I'm going to have a class tomorrow, it's going to be a repeat of this introduction. It's 7 o'clock. It's any class that you want to have as far as this program is concerned. It's 7 o'clock.
Okay, well, can we have like a calendar that can actually give us actual time so that we can prepare ahead, for you guys can work.
Yes, I understand. Okay, I will work on the calendar then. Somebody asked how many times in a week. It's Monday to Sunday. It was before Monday to Friday, but now I see that because I have a target. I have something we must achieve in 6 months,
Monday to Sunday is very fine.
and for us to be able to achieve it, then it means that we are working throughout the week. So we are working Monday to Sunday, 7 o'clock every single day. But the agenda of each day, I'm going to be putting it inside the WhatsApp group. So I'm going to be putting it inside the WhatsApp group, especially in the group description. So if you want to know what's up, if I put it in the normal chats, many other chats can come and cover it. So if you want to know the schedule, just go to the group description. When you go to the group description, you will get the schedule of the class.
No, I did listen for one class.
If you want to get the schedule, then you can just check the description. Let me mute this guy, I beg. So that's for that. Please share the group with many people, and then we'll see. Let's continue the talking in the group.
All right, sir. Thanks very much, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I'm going to leave you all here. If you want to sleep here, no wala. Me, I will.